Alright, this is Chat UTD. Manchester United have just been knocked out of the League Cup at the earliest stage you could possibly be knocked out for a club from the Premier League by Grimsby Town on penalties. Deservedly so. Grimsby were 2-0 up in the first half, which was an unmitigated disaster class from Manchester United. And despite some improvement in the second half and getting it back to 2-2 late doors, the team lost on penalties. I'm going to talk a little bit about the game and try and keep some structure to it, but there's also, of course, other bigger points that need to be made here, because this is a catastrophic evening for Manchester United and for United Amorim. A new low. Something that really stood out today, and I've thought it before, but it particularly stood out tonight, is when a Man United player receives the ball, they always have to control it. They always have to take a touch, then they look around, then they do the next thing. Nothing ever happens naturally or with fluidity or with any kind of skill or expression or dynamism or anything that's off the cuff. And that was particularly evident tonight. No bounce passes, no round the corners, no one-touch stuff. If ball comes to a United player, they have to stop it dead, which stops the momentum. They have to look around and then there's a next action. I could not believe the lack of quality I'm watching from Premier League football players. Regardless of the opposition, from Premier League football players who are being paid a lot of money. It's scarily bad. And it really stood out today. The exceptions for me in the first half were Mainu, who tried to make things happen and did try and use the speed of the ball and use the momentum of the ball and try to turn and try to make things happen. And I think Fernandes, when he came on, did that as well. Pretty much everybody else kills the ball stone dead. I've made the point. The first goal, Ugarte gets bullied off the ball. He's in the team surely for no other reason than to be quite tough and to be quite strong. He's not. I said in the video the other day, he's PSG's sloppy seconds. He was on another level bad tonight, Ugarte, against League Two opposition. But you can't be bullied off the ball in that situation. He was. The move progresses, the ball goes to the back post, Diego Dallo's nowhere to be seen, and it's a not brilliant shot at the goalkeeper's near post, not far away from him. The keeper gets hands on it and it still goes in. I'm going to talk about Onana now a little bit, and I'm not being facetious when I say this. The reason I'm hesitating is I can't find the words. There aren't words in the English dictionary, certainly not ones that I should probably say, that can describe just how unfathomably bad this guy is. The best thing I can say to try and describe how bad I think he is, and I don't think this is the case by the way, is that he's so bad, it almost looks like it's a plan. It looks like it's sabotage. It looks like someone from Liverpool or Man City is dropping him a few quid to behave and act as he's behaving and acting. He doesn't look all there. I've said in previous videos, it looks like someone needs to tap him on the shoulder and make sure he knows why he's there. Do you realise you're a goalkeeper? You're supposed to stop the ball from going in the net, mate. This sounds hugely facetious, but it's genuinely how I feel about him. I can't describe how bad he is and how bad he was tonight. The second goal, again, is on him. It's ridiculous. We bought him apparently for his distribution. I watched him in the Champions League final for Inter Milan. I watched him run the game. I thought he was the best player on the pitch, and I was looking forward to him playing for United. Fair enough, that's pretty much the only time I saw him play. But I don't recognise that guy. Must have been a different person, because there's been players that have come to United who've dropped off, who've been good for their team and then dropped off. But either he's always been shit, or it's one of the most spectacular drop-offs probably in recent times. And that's saying something, because there has been some spectacular drop-offs from players that have come with a big reputation, a good reputation, and not done very well, particularly in recent seasons. But this guy's next level. The penalties, I said to my lad that was watching it with me, if they hit the target, it's a goal. It could be, there was one that was right at the right height, he just palmed it into the net. The one he saved, I don't think is a particularly good save. He got his hands, I think, on one more, which went in. He must have the weakest wrists in football. He can't get low down. He a few times with the penalties, it was almost like he was doing joke dives. I can't do it on here and show you what I mean, obviously. But it was like a joke. It was like a comedy dive into the corner. He's a parody of himself. I quite honestly question his mental faculty. I honestly do, and I'm not saying that to be mean or facetious. I don't think the guy's all there. And I've said previously, you can't afford to have a clown in net who's going to throw the ball in the back of the net, which essentially he does, and he's done it twice. Is it fault for both goals tonight? When you've got a team who can't score goals. You're swimming against the tide. Now, Grimsby were the better team anyway tonight. And they probably deserved their 2 goals. But they don't score those 2 goals if we've got anyone even semi-competent in net. I'm not even asking for a brilliant goalkeeper. I'm just asking for someone who can do the bare basics. And it's a massive talking point because he's been out of the team. There's a lot of talk about his future. He comes into the team and produces a 1 out of 10 performance. The second half was better. I thought, there's just one more thing about the first half. I thought actually in the first half, Sesko put himself about a little bit, and when he was involved, his runs weren't very intelligent, but when he was involved and he got on the ball, I thought he tried to make things happen. He tried to get a few shots away. He had a decent header. He was all right in the first half. He disappeared off the face of the earth in the second half, and he was the last outfield player to take a penalty, which I think is hugely concerning, although it was a decent pen. The second half, we were a bit better, but he's just throwing players on, and there's not really any rhyme or reason really to what he was doing. At times, I was struggling to keep abreast of exactly where players were supposed to be playing. I'm normally relatively decent with that, where I'm thinking, well, where's Ahmad supposed to be playing? Well, where's Xerxes come on to play? Where's Mount? Mount was left wing back at one point. De Ligt was probably our biggest attacking threat, not just in the air, just in general. In the second half, it was almost like, I don't know, lads, we're a Premier League team. I don't care who does it, just take responsibility, and one of you at least try and make something happen. Try and just force the issue if you have to. There was no structure, there was no patterns of play, but there was an improvement in the overall performance, I guess. And obviously, we got back in the game. And Bumo's finish is a really smart finish. It's a lovely finish, great goal, very technically good goal, and obviously the last one is Maguire just doing what Maguire does. We had chances, late scramble in the box where I don't know if it was De Ligt or Sesko that got the final touch, but we should have buried that. And then, to be honest, it comes to the point with penalties. I don't care. I'm like, if they go through, they go through. We don't know. We have league football now until January, and that's it. So this competition was quite important for Amorim. One, it's a chance to try and go deep and try and win a trophy. But 2, you've got a squad of players who are going to be playing now once a week maximum until January. And you've got players, thinking about the problems I was speaking about the other day with buying Mbumo and with buying Cunha. Where does that leave Ahmad? Where does that leave Xerxes? Ugarte, because Bruno's playing deeper, isn't going to get any game time. Mainoo's already struggling for game time. Do you know what? The whole thing's broken. And I said that in the summer. It doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter who plays. It doesn't matter what the system is. It doesn't matter who the manager is. This club is rotten to the core. And Amorim, it'll be another one that he'll get sacked. He will. This ain't working. This ain't turning round. People talk about patience. There's not even chinks of light. It's rubbish. It's absolute rubbish. And You can talk about Ferguson in the late 80s and blah blah blah. You're not going to get that time anymore. No one gets that time anymore. So it's cloud cuckoo land. I hate the Glazers. I hate Ineos. I think they're an abomination on this football club. But they're the owners. So you've got to have a manager who can cope with having them as owners and cope with having the players that he's got. He can't do it. He's showing no signs that he can do it. I don't think he's a bad manager. I think he should have stayed at Sporting Lisbon, and I think his reputation would still be intact. And I think he probably would go to a club where maybe his talents would be more suited. But it's not suited to here. It's done. It's done. But people might rightly ask, well, who's going to come in and replace him? The answer is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who comes in and replaces him. It's finished. It's done. The club's broken. You see it in the players' body language. You see it in their lack of ability to do anything off the cuff, as I mentioned before. They've been driven into the ground because this is a big football club that is completely and utterly on its arse. And that's a really difficult combination for players to deal with. Because you go into a club where the shirt weighs heavy and where there are still, to some degree, some expectations on you. But they must all be looking around thinking, this ain't happening. It's not happening. Something radical needed to happen in the summer. I've been saying that for the last 5 or 6 summers. Never happens, does it? If you're going to buy in Mbeumo and you're going to buy Cunha, then you need to sell Bruno. People talk about the bomb squad and those that we can't get rid of. People are missing the obvious here. They're wank. They don't play anyway, and they shouldn't be anywhere near the team. That should just be an absolute given that they're gone. That's not brave to get rid of Anthony and Sancho and Malacia and Rashford. And there's another one in there. Can't think. Obviously, a highly forgettable person is the other one. That's not brave to do that. That's just common sense. What would be brave is I'm getting in Mbeumo, I'm getting Cunha, and I know that because we're only going to be playing once a week, the chances for Bruno to play in his best position are not there. There's 100 million quid on the table from Saudi Arabia, so he goes. Mason Mount, get 30 million for him. He goes, because there's no place in the team for him. Casemiro, difficult to get rid of, I appreciate. But you try your best to get rid of Ugarte, get rid of him. It's not good enough. I don't care if he's been here for a season, he's not good enough. If you don't think Mainoo's going to play, get rid of him. There's no courage. Garnacho was the other one from the bomb squad. But it's just all much of a muchness. It's all the same, which is why nothing changes. You bring 3 players into this, it doesn't make any difference. And as I say, the 2 that he's brought in have caused more problems than they've solved. Not because they're not good players, but because the whole shape of the team's messed up. Where does Ahmad get minutes? Now you look at Ahmad today. This is a kid with real talent. Last year, he put the team on his back and carried them a few times. I thought he was one of the very few bright sparks last season. And you go and sign 2 players that play in his position, or within this system, it'd be the position he plays. He's not a wing back. He can play there, but that's not his position. So him and Bruno, the 2 creative talents that we've got within this team, have both had their noses pushed out. But he has to play Bruno. But he's not playing his best position. Ahmad is not going to get the game time he needs, which is just an absolute crime against humanity. He should be in the team. But you can see in his body language today, he knows playing the League Cup against Grimsby. Fucking brilliant. But forget ideals. Forget we need a midfielder, we need this, the goalkeeper should be better. Forget that for a second. We're playing Grimsby Town from League 2. Do they have the perfect squad? Do they have a player that plays ever so slightly to the left in the midfield and ever so slightly to the right, and a player that can do things in the number 10 role, and a player that they fuck? They've got a bare minimum basic team. But today they had a game plan. They had players who can play the ball and pass it and receive it. They had guts, they had courage, they had fight, and they wanted it more. So we can wax lyrical and talk about tactics and hipster shit that doesn't mean anything. Football's not a complicated game unless you make it a complicated game. The team we played tonight wanted it more than we did, and just have some bare minimum basics about them, and we don't. They played with hope, they played with optimism, they played with spirit, and we didn't, because the whole club is bereft of it. My lad who I watched the game with, he's 10 years old. He's like I was at 10. Mad on football, loves United. And he said to me before the game, maybe I'll watch us win one, Dad, tonight, because we're playing Grimsby. And as the day wore on, I had this horrible feeling, and I thought, I don't think that's a given, mate. Now, you haven't got any divine right to win any game of football. You haven't. But there's ways to play. There's ways to lose games. You're never going to have done it very well if you lose against Grimsby, obviously. But you can have a freak of nature game where it just doesn't go your way. That wasn't that tonight. And any hope, any optimism that came from that Arsenal game is down the pan. And as I said, with Amorim, it's done. It's not happening. He's not the man to turn the Reds around, as the song says. It's not. I'm not being dramatic or sensationalist when I say that. It's just done, isn't it? You can tell. So yeah, we have to go through the whole lot. Got to give him a bit of time, and let's see if it works out. If we can get a couple more players this week, and let's see what he gets in January, and give him some time to work with them on the pitch. Blah 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 blah. Just like with Ten Hag, just like with Ollie, it's not set up to be successful. The club isn't. He's not doing himself any favours, but the club's done. And tonight is a massive, great slap in the face reminder of that. By the way, no money went to Manchester United for this top. Glazers out.